there are conversations going on right now about how we sort of change the relationship between communities and police, but today that hasn't happened yet.
You know, the police essentially is an arm of the government. The police have the power to deprive you of your liberty. They have the power to deprive you of your life. But the most important thing may be just to survive that encounter, especially dealing with communities, Black communities, non-white communities, poor communities. When it comes to law enforcement and such, things that stand out become suspicious. If you are in a financial district, let's say you're a Black individual or Black young person or Latino young person, and you're dressed the way young people dress, but most of the other people in that district are wearing suits and ties and business suits and such, you stand out. The police officers' eyes are going to be on you.
Wouldn't that be racial profiling?
Yeah, but if I can articulate a reason why I became suspicious, I can pretty much get away with it in a court of law. The courts invariably will give the officer the benefit of the doubt. So when you are approached by police officers, you all have these wonderful devices called cell phones. Start recording as quickly as you can. Now, be careful not to make any kind of sudden moves or jerking gestures or whatever. If your cell phone is in your hands, just swipe it really quickly, start recording, and please do yourself a favor. Don't let the officer know that you're recording. And you'll hear the officer's voice, you'll hear your voice, and you now will have evidence that you can use.
I want to get into the power of recording because just recently and again, today is June 16th, 2020. Just recently during some of the protests that were going on in New York City, a young woman was pushed to the ground by a police officer, cracked her head open, and suffered a seizure. This was caught on camera. The police officer has now been charged, I believe, with criminal assault in a way that almost never happens. And the young woman went on Democracy Now! Just recently and said, you know, without the video recording, this never happened.
I saw that video, and it was incredibly egregious. The officer pushes her, she falls down into the sidewalk, you know, hitting her head. What I found really interesting about that video, you had command officers who were there, and they all kept marching forward. They saw what happened. And you can tell the command, in New York City, you can tell the command officers because they're the ones in the white shirts. Okay? And so they were there. They saw what happened and they did nothing. Also in Buffalo, the officers who pushed the 75-year-old man, he falls to the floor, cracks open his skull, is bleeding on the street, and none of the officers there renders any assistance.
Well,
one officer tries to bend down, and he is stopped by a supervising officer.
Yeah, which is just crazy in its own right. And then also with the police report on that one, initially—
Was he tripped? The individual tripped. Yeah. And until the video came out, that was the official report, the official version from the Buffalo Police Department. When the video came out, now they have to go back and explain.
So I think what's interesting right now in this present moment and what the power of a recording gives you is we're learning something that Black and brown communities have known for some time, is that you can't trust everything that's in a police report. You just can't, right? And they have their own interests. They are looking to oftentimes cover for their own actions and frame themselves in a certain way. When you have a recording, you have a rebuttal. Otherwise, oftentimes in a court of law, the police officer will be trusted above your own testimony.
If that video had not come out, the official narrative is the only narrative. And the mayor would have supported the officers, the police chief would have supported the officers, and you could have 1,000 witnesses who said that the officer did something wrong. Your official version, the official report, the thing that was written down as the official report becomes the only thing that anybody's going to believe. The videos are now countering the official report.
If I am walking by, Gary, and I see a police officer arresting you, should we, as citizens, stop and maybe film that encounter?
Yeah, in the world that we have right now, I think that's one of your obligations as a citizen is to record. Because let's say the young lady who recorded George Floyd's murder had essentially was like, hey, it's none of my concern, we walk away. Nothing. Okay? The family would have been none the wiser. And again, the official report now is the official report. But she stood there, and as horrific as that was, as painful as that was, you hear people pleading with the officer, please come on, he's not moving, as horrific as that video, I think, was like a bucket of ice water in the face of millions of Americans. What you should not do is run up on the officer, get close to the officer, and start saying, I'm recording you, I'm recording you. No, you can stand wherever you need to stand and start recording. That's what the young lady did in Minneapolis. You'll hear police officers saying, you can't record me, it's illegal and all that stuff. No, it's not. Perfectly legal to record.
If you are in certain places in the country, they have passed some laws that make it not legal. But in New York State, it is legal.
When a police officer asks for permission to search, you should always say no. So you never want to consent. Sir, can I look into your bag? No. Sir, can I look into your knapsack? No. Sir, ma'am, can I look in your pocketbook? No, I do not consent to the search. If they grab it and they start searching, I did not consent to the search. Don't be like, why are you doing that? That's not fair. I did not consent to the search, officer. I did not consent to the search, officer. And you keep repeating the magical incantation. If you consent to a search in any way, and anything is found, even if, and this has happened, the officer may have planted that, okay, you got problems now. Okay, because why? You consented to the search. Okay, so you never want to consent to the search, because by not consenting to the search, your Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches and seizures is now in effect.
You're basically arming your future attorney, maybe, with the ability potentially to get whatever evidence is either found or planted thrown out. Is that
Correct.
right?
When it comes to searching a vehicle, there's something called plain view, plain sight. Okay, so you get pulled over. The can of beer is on the floor of the passengers on the floor of the passenger side. I'm sorry, it's in plain view. It's in plain sight. You just ruined, So now they can definitely, it's in plain view, it's in plain sight. Probable cause, facts are right there. Probable cause, take you out of the vehicle, can ask you a follow-up question, can detain you, can arrest you, okay, and now can search the vehicle, okay, because plain view. Okay, and anything else they find in that vehicle, you got problems.
So obviously, if the marijuana blunt is in your mouth, on the dashboard somewhere, that's obviously probable cause to search a vehicle. But what if it's not? What if there's nothing really going on with your car? It's a little messy, maybe. Can they search your vehicle?
Sorry. Can they? Yes. Would it be legal? Probably not. One of the things you could always keep asking, am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? And as silly as that may sound, okay, that officer now has to make a decision, because you're not playing the game the way they want you to play the game. A police officer can arrest you, but they have to have a reason for that arrest. They have to be able to explain that arrest away. And they may drag you into an interrogation room, which they will call an interview room. Don't believe police when they call it an interview room. You're being interrogated. The Miranda warning has to be said to you before you are being questioned. And this is how it could look. I'm the police officer, you're the suspect, we're in an interrogation room. I say to you the following, Sam, you know you don't have to talk to me, right? And you would say, yeah, I know. And I say, Sam, also, you know you can have a lawyer at any time, right? And you're like, yeah, I know that. Guess what? You just got Mirandized.
What
Okay.
if you don't have a lawyer?
They will hold you until somebody from legal aid or from somebody from legal aid comes and to kind of assist you. You have to make sure your lawyer who is representing your interests and your rights do his or her job to represent you. So if they're telling you, hey, it's your first offense, just plead on all that stuff. Well, if you are in the process of applying for U.S. citizenship, that will come back to hurt you. If this is your third strike, that is going to come back to hurt you. So you don't want to start playing these games. Make your lawyer do his or her job, no matter how pissed off he or she gets at you. You have the right not to answer any questions being posed to you by the government, by law enforcement. So since you don't know what evidence might be out there, since you don't know what the police may have, it's always the best practice not to answer any questions posed to you. Don't start playing the song and dance. Don't start volunteering information. Remain silent. If the student has started saying things, there would have been problems because they would have the police would have followed those questions with more questions, more questions, more questions, more questions, and eventually beating down that individual. That the individual might have, admitted to doing something. Don't drink the water when it's offered. Don't take the sandwich when it's offered, and remain silent. So there are four levels of police encounters that the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals is the highest court in New York State. And so the Court of Appeals laid down these four levels of police encounter. And level one is called an objective credible reason. Level two is something called a founded suspicion. Level three is something called a reasonable suspicion. Level four, something called probable.
And I do think something that's interesting about this conversation is there is also an expectation amongst law enforcement, because they haven't encountered a whole lot of people who are going to then approach them or respond to their inquiry with what level of encounter this is, right? So what we're doing here is we're arming you all with information that levels the playing field some.
So level one, an objective credible reason. So it's any reason that a police officer can articulate as to why he or she may have begun an encounter with an individual. But here's the thing. With a level one encounter, you can walk away. You don't have to stand there and be questioned. The officer cannot request permission to search. And as I said before, you should never give police officer the permission to search. A level one encounter shouldn't be aggressive. It shouldn't be like, I know you did something and I'm going to, no, it should be, hey, can I talk to you? And if you don't want to talk to the police officer, you have a right to leave. Okay, that's why I want students to find out at the very beginning of the encounter, which one is it? Is it level one, level two, level three, level four?
We could role play this real quick. I'm the officer. I come up to you and I say, you look suspicious. Is that right?
Okay.
Could you stop for a second? I want to ask you a few questions. What do you do, Professor Graves?
First thing you do is simply to say this. Good morning, officer. What level of encounter is this?
So I'm going to probably be surprised because probably officers don't get that question a lot.
No.
Well, this is a level one encounter, and I have to have a conversation with you about this.
Oh, well, thank you very much. But officer, level one, according to the New York State Court of Appeals, according to the patrol guide, I know we don't have to answer your questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Actually, something called a founded suspicion. At level two, you're now a suspect. Under level two, the police officer can ask 20 questions that would reasonably lead one to believe that he or she is suspected of a crime. Questions can be more extended and accusatory, focus on possible criminality, can request permission to search, don't ever give permission to search, cannot pursue, again this is in New York, and cannot forcibly detain. Level three encounter, you got problems. Okay, and you should, if it's level three, please stop talking. Invoke your right to remain silent under the Fifth Amendment and invoke your right to counsel and stop talking. Okay, a level 3 encounter is something known as a reasonable suspicion. And let's look at what an officer can do under a level 3 encounter. The police can handcuff for a good reason. Under a level 3 encounter, the officer can forcefully detain. I can push you against the wall, okay? I can hold you, okay? I can forcefully detain, okay? I can frisk for weapons. So an officer can do a pat down if they believe that the person is armed and dangerous. One of the things that a lot of people forget that in the United States, we have the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. So there are a lot of people who walk around with their weapons and they have the license and carry permits and all that stuff. They're not dangerous, but they're armed. Okay, so if the officer believes that the person is armed and dangerous, they should do a pat down of the outer garments. They shouldn't be going into your pockets. They shouldn't be going into your pockets to look for stuff. That is a violation. That would be a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. Unreasonable searches and seizures. Under level 3, reasonable suspicion. I can pull your car out of traffic. I can stop your car. Okay. Can order under level 3, police officer can order defendant to lie on the ground if the officer has a good reason. So get on the ground, lie down, stuff like that. You know, just comply. If you have a weapon, especially if a weapon pointed at you, comply. The goal is survival. Under level 3, the police officer can't pursue you. Okay. In New York, a police officer cannot shoot you in the back.
Situation.
At level 4, game over. Invoke your right to remain silent. Shut up, and and don't say anything until a lawyer is present. Level 4 is probable cause. And if you watch CSI, you watch Law and Order, the officer will approach. We have probable cause, and all that stuff. What's probable cause? Probable cause is just the evidence that they have. They already have the informant. They already have the evidence. They already have the smoking gun, literally or figuratively. They already have the smoking gun. They already have all that stuff and such. And so you are not allowed to be arrested. Okay, definitely. No ifs, ands, or buts. The officer pulls the car over. Okay. You know, again, if you're a black male, 10 and 2, your hand on the steering wheel. Do not make any movements whatsoever because you run the risk of being shot in your car. You roll down the window, okay? Do you want me to roll down the window, officer? Yes, I'm about to roll down the window right now. So I move my hand, put my hand on the mechanism to roll the window down, the window came down. Put my hand back on the steering wheel. Okay, can I see your license registration? Okay, officer, my license is in my back right pants pocket, and the registration is in the glove compartment under the first aid kit. Which one of those two things do you want me to get first? License. Okay, my seatbelt is on. I'm removing my seatbelt right now. It is going to make a popping sound. I'm in the process of removing my seatbelt right now. With my 2 fingers on my right hand and my thumb, I'm reaching for the wallet. You can see me reaching for the wallet. So I'm talking the officer through everything I'm going to do. Sometimes I have students who say, aren't you going to make the officer feel that you're playing games with him and her, and so I'm upset? I'm letting the officer know I know exactly how the game is played. Okay, and if he or she has a dash cam or a body cam, and that is recording, everything I say and everything I do now becomes part of the evidence. Okay, and so again, it's about surviving the encounter. Now, should I have to worry about having to go through all that stuff? It shouldn't. No, it shouldn't. Okay, would some of my white colleagues have to go through that? No, they don't. But this is the reality of the world that we live in.